All right, I'm going to gavel us in. Hello, everyone. Calling us to order. Jodine, have you taken attendance? Yes. Okay, so we are going to have a vote for closed session for discussion of real estate. I suggest that the board meet in closed session under Section 8(1)(d) of the Open Meetings Act for the discussion of real estate. Can I get a motion to move into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
This is a roll call vote.
Trustee Campbell?
Yes.
Trustee Hadley?
Yes.
Trustee Kleinman?
Yes.
Trustee Solomon?
Yes.
Trustee Silva?
Yes.
Trustee Trudeau?
Yes.
All right, going into closed session. We'll reconvene at 7. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to call us back into session. Jodine, have you taken attendance?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Next up, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor of approving the agenda, please say yes.
Yes.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say yes.
Yes.
Okay, next up we have public comment. Public comment is an opportunity for members of the public to speak before the board. Topics must be related to Ann Arbor District Library Board of Trustees or matters within their authority. To speak during the allotted time on the agenda for public comment, please fill out a public comment form with the executive assistant before the allotted time. Participants may only speak once per meeting, and each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. You can also reach the board by emailing boardcomments@aadl.org. The AADL public comment policy can be found at aadl.org/public comment. Jodine, do we have any public comments tonight? All right, thanks. Next up, we have communications from trustees. I'll communicate. Trustees have an opportunity to say anything they want to say for 3 minutes or less. Okay, no trustee communications tonight. Next up, financial reports with Eli.
Okay, the financial report begins on page marked 17 in your packet. Just to hit a couple highlights here. So as of November 30th, we've received 99.2% of our anticipated revenue. That's $22.3 million. That's very normal for this time of year. It will tick up as delinquent things and such come in and as our other small amounts of revenue do. Our unassigned fund balance now stands at $6.6 million as of November 30th. That is after the transfer of $2.8 million from the fund balance to the general fund that represented the previous year's operating surplus. So now the current fund balance will fund about 3.7 months of operation, or about 1/3 of a year, which is a great place to be. All right, if you turn to page 18, so our revenues are, this is the accrued revenue is 43.2% of budget after 41.6% of the fiscal years, running a little bit ahead, which is what we want to see. Actual year-to-date expenditure, 36% of budget after 41% of the fiscal year, also what we want to see. And that gives us a current increase in net assets of $1.5 million. And as we said, we transferred to the Capital Projects Fund. So one thing I wanted to draw your attention to on page 19, Friends of AADL Fund currently stands at $36,000. They just voted last week to give us another donation of $25,000 this year. So that will be coming. And there's a couple different things we'll be doing with that. One thing in particular is for years, the Friends funded the buses for second grade roundup. Over the pandemic, when they were retracting, we picked that up into the library budget, and they are now going to resume paying it again. And so that will be something that is funded by the Friends of the Library, and we are hugely appreciative of them for that, bringing every second grader in the community down to the downtown library to make sure they all have a library card and they know how to use it. So that's terrific and great to see that. All right. One thing to point out on page 20, the current balance of the Special Projects Fund stands at $187,000. We just continue to accrue in there so we can do things with it that we're not paid for with tax money. Tax money does not go into that fund. So just to point out where that's at, and that the Capital Fund now stands after the transfer at $5.1 million. So that puts us in a good position. Doesn't go very far on the downtown project, but it puts us in a great position to have that capital money accruing. We will be planning to spend some of that on the addition of the outbuilding out at the ALF site. We'll have more on that as we move forward. And you can see our total balance sheet for grants and memorials funds is $537,000. That includes the restricted amounts. So on page 21, here's one thing I just want to, again, draw your attention to, is that the donations line, this only shows donations that were designated, which is pretty rare. Generally, when we get donations, they are undesignated, and we put them into the Special Projects Fund. This is just the donations we've received that are designated for operational uses. So that's why that's $528. I'll show you on the next page how much we've actually received. But you can see all of our revenue side doing very well. Several of these have received more than we were expecting at this point of the year, which is what brings us to 43% of our anticipated revenue budget, only 42% of the way through the fiscal year. And then looking down the expenditures column, very few of these are over that 42% mark. Employment total cost is just below, which is right where we like it to be. This accounting, of course, is above because the audit has to be paid for. A couple other highlights in here is that operating supplies is running a little above. We changed what was paid for out of what this year as due to some of the accounting system changes. So we will probably be bringing an adjustment to that as we get to the end of the year to transfer some of those things that were actually more like capital outlay into the capital outlay fund instead. But overall, our total expenditures 36%, 42% of the way through the year. That's where we like to be. And then just on the last page there, 22, we've actually received into the special projects fund $34,000 so far this year. $14,000 of that is rent. So that is mostly Sweetwater's and a small amount of money from the lobby shops vendors. But that is a small amount. However, we have received $17,000 of donation this year, unsolicited. And I just want to call out one of those, which is a $10,000 donation that we received from Jerry Billick. Jerry Billick is the composer of M Fanfare and the arranger of Let's Go Blue and many of the big hits of the Michigan Marching Band over the years. And they live in Michigan part of the year and Florida part of the year. And out of the blue, we received a $10,000 gift from Jerry Billick and his wife Helga. So thank you to Jerry and Helga, and we look forward to meeting them when they're up here in warmer times of year, if those will ever return. And then you can also just see there our investment gains, and that's it for the financial report. Any questions about any of that?
What's this local community stabilization, which is at 200%?
Yes. Okay, so local community stabilization. This is confusing because it was about the personal property tax that was eliminated several years ago, which confusingly is only about business equipment, okay? That was phased out over a couple years. Some communities were very hard hit by that, particularly when a lot of their local municipal revenue came from the tax on factory equipment. Okay, so you can envision communities that don't have very valuable real estate, but have expensive factories there. That was a big part of there. So the state of Michigan established the local community stabilization program, which paid to communities a proportionate amount from a fund to make up for the tax revenue that was removed when they stopped taxing factory equipment as property tax. So we don't have a lot of that in our region, so we don't receive a lot of it, and we budgeted for almost none of it, which is why we've gotten more than we expected this year. You can see it's not a large amount of money, but we've received $102,000. We budgeted for $50 because we didn't know we were going to get any.
Yeah.
So that's what that is, the local community stabilization program, which doesn't affect us much, but for communities that have a large industrial base, it's a big difference. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
All right. Next up, we have committee reports, starting with executive committee. We did meet this month. Every time it's like, and today my brain's full of migraine. I think we mostly talked about things that we're covering today.
Yes.
So I don't think I have to report out. Thank you, Aiden. So that's it for executive committee. It's all stuff that, it was all stuff that was coming here on the agenda anyway. So that's executive committee. Budget and finance committee.
Budget and Finance Committee did not meet. We're in a quiet period following the results of the audit, which were presented at a previous meeting. After the new year turns over, I anticipate we will start meeting again to start thinking about next year's audit.
Great. Thanks, Lisa. And facilities committee with Scott.
Yep. So Facilities Committee met at the beginning of the month, and we met with HBM, which is the architecture firm that we had worked with in the past on the program for the downtown project that didn't go forward, and now they're in the process of updating that program for us. And so they got some feedback from the committee members on things we would like to see in the library and what we'd like to do with the future space, and got to know some of that team. And then we talked briefly about some of the proposals that were coming in from various potential consultants to work with as a development partner going forward. So on an RRP and those sorts of things. And, yeah, that was it.
All right, thanks, Scott. Next up, we have the library report with Eli.
Okay, if you guys can bring that up on the screen here, here's our report for December 2025. Starting off with our stat of the month, this is what our door count chart looks like when Tiny Expo happens.
Oh, good God.
So see if you can identify Tiny Expo on this chart. Tiny Expo had 650 attendees on Saturday. I'll talk more about that in just a minute, but one other thing from this is that you can see here, if you can see my mouse pointer, so you can see Saturdays on this chart.
Yeah.
These are Saturdays. And then, of course, the Saturday after Thanksgiving, a little bit of a peak, but there's another Saturday. So you can always see Saturdays on the West Gate increase there. And you can also, this is helpful when you're worried, did weather impact it? Well, not when you had a big Saturday at Westgate. You know that that was a good day for weather, right? But you can also see on this chart, as we often talk about, that Mallets, Pittsfield, and Traver would have very similar attendance over any given day, and that on a normal day, downtown and Westgate do about the same amount of business. So that's the raw door count. Here's Tiny Expo's door count from 2014 through to 2025. When we first started doing the show, we had about 3,000 people through the door, and as we said yesterday, we had, I think it was 14 people more than 2024 attended. It was a very similar number. But I also think that what you're seeing here is that we have topped out the capacity. Main thing that we hear about Tiny Expo is, oh my gosh, it's so crowded, right? Of course, nobody goes to the library anymore. It's too crowded, right? So this is, I think, really a seeing that we've hit our max here of what we can realistically jam into the library on a single day. We made some adjustments to the floor plan that were they're very well received this year. It was not anywhere near as crowded as it was the previous year to make those adjustments. Also, here's a chart of applicants versus vendors. The blue section is the number of vendors in the show. The green section is the number of applicants to the show. So you can see that really shooting up over the past couple years. We had just short of 400 applicants to the show and about 80 vendors that we had room for. So the current footprint in the lobby of Tiny Expo, and of course we've expanded onto the second floor a little bit, and boy, some points of the day, second floor was more crowded than the first floor was. But the overall footprint of Tiny Expo in the lobby is about 5,000 square feet, believe it or not. 5,000 square feet, we cram all that into. The main floor that we're talking about as we're developing the program is closer to 50,000 square feet. So we're looking at an 8 to 10-fold increase on the amount of space that we have for events like this in the future. And of course, not all of them will use all of them. But it'd be great to have wider aisles, more room for the vendors, right? All that sort of stuff that we'll be able to have with a much larger sort of purpose-built library built around these occasional uses. Because we're at the point where we have an expo almost every month, sometimes 2 months, or 2 a month. And that's a need that is only continuing to grow into the future. So thanks to all the staff who worked on Tiny Expo. It was another big success, continues to be a great show. I have been saying that when we open the new library, it will need to rebrand because it will no longer be Tiny at all. It has long since ceased to be Tiny. And it did have that name because the first year it had 8 vendors before it came to be an AADL event. So,
I have a question
Yes,
about the applicants.
yes.
Is there a way to showcase some of the really wonderful applicants that don't get into Tiny Expo, from a local, you know what I mean? A runners up
Well, part of the
kind of
challenge
thing.
there.
I just feel like there's such
Yeah.
a great opportunity to highlight wonderful local artists.
It's an interesting question. The challenge is where you get from 80 to 400, because
Sure.
a list of 400 applicants not terribly useful.
No,
Right? But
no.
that's something worth us considering. But also then sometimes vendors don't like their audience knowing that they did not make it into a
Sure.
show. So
Sure,
there's some
sure.
complexity there.
Yeah.
It's something worth considering for the future.
Yeah, right. It wouldn't be like a actual runners up, but just
Yeah.
some way to highlight these local artists that didn't get in, but there's a lot of value. Anyway,
Sure.
just thinking about that.
I have a related question, which is, do you have a sense of what's driving the growth in applicants?
I think there's a couple different things here. One, it is a very successful show for the people who participate, so they tell all their friends, right? And it's like, this is a good show. People have their wallets out. It's the right time of year. People, they come in with carts of merch and when they're loading in the morning, and they're loading out with a card table, you know, and there's like a fly flying out of their bag of stuff. So it's, people do very well with it. I also think that you're seeing, you know, there's the growth of the side hustle in some concerns,
Yeah.
right? And also it is harder and harder for people who do this kind of business to do a successful business online. Etsy is not what it used to be. Etsy is all full of counterfeits now, right? So it's really hard. Someone might have been able to make that living in 2018, 2019 on Etsy and doing a reasonable trade. And now it's like Etsy is, you get no lead generation from Etsy
Yeah.
because it's so filled with crap like
AI
everything
slop
else.
and-
So I think really what you're seeing, that chart reveals it's in shitification at play,
Yeah.
you know, and you can't shitify a tiny craft fair. So it's a respite, I think.
Yeah.
I had a question too. You know, I think between last year and this year, I hear a lot of feedback about the patron experience, which is super important, you know,
Yes.
about like, you know, crowding or tightness in the aisles. Do you get feedback from the vendors about their experience as a vendor? Like, I don't know, placement on first floor versus second floor or other?
Occasionally, I think this year in particular, there's so much traffic on the second floor. You know, of course, people, when they worry about that sort of thing, right? But the experience of selling at Tiny is so much better than the experience of any of the other shows. You know, they don't have to pay, they get fed lunch. You know, it's the staff are extremely professional that they interact with. You know, so it's like such a premium experience for the vendors. We don't hear a lot of complaints.
That's great.
You know, so it's not, and we do a survey and find out what they think and use that to improve things for next year. But by and large, it's like vendors love these shows. You know, as we're walking around and saying, "How'd you do?" They were like, "I sold out. I sold everything. It was a great day." You know, so we hear a lot of that sort of thing. You combine that with some falafel, you got to.
Thank
Did I
you.
answer your question?
Yes, thanks.
Any other questions about Tiny Expo? All right. Okay, so upcoming events. Tomorrow night, the Jane Austen's 250th birthday ball. I will be in costume. Yes. So December, it's slightly anachronistic, but you know, you're gonna have to be a real pedant to point it out. December 31st, we've got our New Year's Eve event. This is a great event we've been doing for a number of years where we count down to the new year at noon instead of at midnight. Great for little kids, and including an Akako Jishin's appearance. So that'll be coming up on December 31st. Here's a quick recap from December 6th. Whopper happened at the ALF. It was a big success. We had probably 500-600 people through the door. Here you can see Wally, which is the Forsyth Team's robot. Which was great about this robot is that it had no ability to handle any of the game pieces. It could just drive around, and it finished second. So that's the Whopper magic, is that you can build a really slapdash robot. Over on the right, if I remember correctly, was that Fred? I think his name was Fred. And that tube was loaded up with balls that were dropped into the cup on top of the shelf. So everybody had a great day. Whopper was a super fun time, and lots of great participation from all of the high school robotics teams in the community. Of course, December 13th, just this past weekend, was Tiny Expo. Here's a couple of our vendors who participated. And AADL in the community, our newest lobby shop is Wander and Gather. They had their grand opening on Sunday, November 30th. Wander and Gather has product lines featuring watercolor illustrations of the natural world by Maya Hausler. Those illustrations are available on greeting cards, tote bags, and more, and you can check them out on Instagram at WanderGather. They moved into the middle suite, Suite 2, so they just started. So they will be in there for the next several months, and they were doing a very brisk trade during Tiny Expo, as you can imagine. There were people in there all the time, all day long. Also, one of our three tenants, that's JFS Made, will be leaving the lobby shops. And they've basically found it's challenging for them to keep the space staffed. But they were there all day on Saturday, and they did a lot of business there as well. So there will be a lobby shop coming available, and we'll be opening that back up to applicants after the new year. Okay, here's our staff spotlight for this year. This is Joe Liang, who's a book pro. He's worked at AADL for 3 years, and he says, "I'm a huge fan of horror movies, and I'm always looking for a good scare. I welcome any recommendation sent my way." So thank you to Joe. He does a great job here at AADL. Here's our mention of the month from Stephen Richards of Taproot, and he posted on his Instagram, AADL Graham Rockin' Taproot Scissors, which is the name of his album. They never had anything but BSR, which is a reference to their earlier album. I think it was Blue Sky Research at one point. But checking out random stuff, like I listen to music, good stuff. So he was delighted to see his band's album on the shelf here at AADL, and he's the front man for alternative metal band Taproot and an Ann Arbor native. So thank you to Stephen for the shout out. Here's our compliment of the month. Thank you so much for including me on your local writers list. Honestly, it made me tear up a little. I feel so fortunate to be part of the AADL community. You all really and truly bring so much joy and service and care to Ann Arbor. When my son was a baby, your programming made me feel like a more confident and capable parent. I wrote much of my novel at your downtown and Westgate branches, and yikes, I'm sorry we have 2 overdue books on our coffee table right now. I'll get those to you ASAP. With so much gratitude, so much love, Gina. And this was in response to a list of Ann Arbor authors being in our Staff Picks newsletter. So that just came in a couple weeks ago. So thank you to Gina. Here's our complaint of the month, and this just came over the desk earlier this week, or last week. Patron's very unhappy about the incubator shops. He doesn't like that it uses taxpayer money for the shops and the expensive prices they charge. He wishes the Friends Bookshop was still downtown and won't go to the Alf as it is too far away. I explained to him that the Friends made the choice to move, but that didn't really change his opinion of anything. He asked me to pass it along, and now I'm passing it along to you. I do note that the Friends Bookshop on the day of Whopper had their biggest day ever. So there's always new people discovering the Friends Bookshop, and we're always happy to help promote it and get the word out about it. But operations are really going pretty well out there. So any questions about that or anything else? All right, thank you all very much.
All right, thanks, Eli. Next up, we have an update on the exterior and structural system of the downtown library with Len.
Good evening. So Davenport Construction mobilized on December 8th. They've showed up. We have a lift here. Obviously, we've had some weather days, so we've had a couple delays. They have some of the meshing. They've been still testing out some of the fasteners, making sure we have the right fasteners on the right parts of the building. So it's moving. A little bit slow because of this weather. It's been cold or windy or snowing. So they've done 3 pull tests now. They did their last one this morning, and we'll keep it going. I'm still saying 3 to 4 weeks once they get some movement. We are starting on the north side of the building to kind of get some rhythm. So when we impact sidewalk closures or anything staff related or patron related, we'll already kind of have that system in place. So hopefully they get it rolling pretty quick, but it is going. I'd like to come back in January and say we're done. Any questions?
Did we ever decide whether we're going to do it all the way around?
Going all the way around.
Okay. Yeah.
It's not worth it. It's not worth the savings or the risk, so
Yeah.
just go all the way around.
Great.
All right. Well, thank you all so much.
Awesome, thanks,
you.
Len.
Thank you, Len.
All right, next up, update on redevelopment of the downtown library with Eli.
Just a few updates to be had here. So we continue to work on the revision of the downtown library program with HBM from Cleveland. They had developed that document originally. So next steps for them as they come into a draft is that we will be sharing their draft with all the library staff in advance of our January routine all-staff meeting. That will be the topic of our January all-staff meeting. So all staff will get a chance to look over the document, see what they say, give feedback to the architects. That's in January. And then they will be wrapping up that document based on that feedback and bringing it to the full library board at the February meeting. So that document will be presented publicly and posted publicly so everyone can have a chance to have a look at it. It's really exciting to see it come together. It's got a lot great ideas in there, and we're excited to see the next steps with it. So that's the design part of it. The other part is the transfer agreement with the city, which we're just working on moving that forward. We hope to have some action in the new year. And the next step is that we'll be developing a draft that will go to the city for their feedback, and we will keep moving on that to get that part of the transaction done. And then we will be moving forward from there with a development consultant to get ready to do revise our feasibility studies and get ready to put an RFP out to the market sometime in 2026. The goal is by the end of 2026, we're in negotiations with the selected developers. So that's the timeline, and we will continue to update you as we move through. Not much to report now, but we'll keep you posted.
Great. Thanks, Eli. Next up, we have, acquisition of the Ann Arbor Observer update.
Yep, and there's not much motion since the last time we met. The original term sheet did specify a January closing, which is what we had hoped to do based on their fiscal year. But there was more investigation that they needed to do for that. So that won't be happening. It's a non-binding agreement, so that's fine. But the main state of it right now is that they are talking with other nonprofit papers and determining what it looks like to operate the Observer as a nonprofit entity. And when they've determined what that looks like and if they're comfortable with that, we will resume the discussion. So that's the state of it at the moment, and nothing is moving forward until we hear from them. Any questions about that? Okay, that's
Great.
it for me.
All right, thanks, Eli. Next up, it's time for closing public comments. Jodine, are there any public comments? Okay, thank you. And that is it. Oh, wait, nope. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of adjourning, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes, all right. Me-